Good morning, everyone. Um, Welcome to our webinar on the Contractor Marketplace for block managers. My name's Lewis, as you can see. We'll give it another 20, 30 seconds just as more and more people trickle in. I hope everyone is well.
Nice one, Lewis.
Thank you, Jay. I'm pleased you're wearing a shirt. I should have taken a page from your book. Looking smart.
You're on wind down there after your corporate ends. It's a hard life.
Indeed. Cool, well, let's get cracking. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so we'll do some quick intros. So my name's Lewis, as I've said. I'm the head of the Contractor Marketplace here at Fixflo. Hand over to the far more important people on the call than me. So Dean, over to you.
I'm Dean Falvey. I'm the network manager at Fixflo for the contractor marketplace, responsible for all the onboarding of contractors onto the marketplace and the ongoing management of said contractors from both an operational and commercial perspective.
Thanks, Dean. I'm Joe, and I head up our new business in our block management and build to rent space at Fixflo. I've got my sins sat in the hot seat for a good 10 years, PMing in block leasehold world. So maybe we'll dive a bit into that later. Back to you guys.
Cool, thank you. So just a quick disclaimer, I don't think we're going to be discussing anything too controversial on this webinar, but yeah, obviously the opinions and thoughts are our own, myself, Dean's and Joe's. Yeah, so their own rather than the Fixer business. And yeah, this is, hopefully quite an interactive webinar. There's a Q&A at the end, but yeah, please feel free to get your questions in throughout. For example, is the webinar recorded? Yes, is a good question, but yeah, please get your questions in throughout and we'll tackle them at the end. Just to go through what we're going to discuss today, we'll give a bit of an overview on what the Contractor Marketplace is. We'll do a bit of a spotlight on a couple of the providers that we've got on board for the Contractor Marketplace that are quite focused on the block management segment as well. Dean will talk a little bit about contractor vetting and as well as our coverage. And then finally, we'll talk about how it works and how to get started. Cool. So we're trying to cover four key products, I guess, for the contractor marketplace from a block management perspective, and we've got a host of providers to carry that out for us. It starts with out of hours emergencies. So if you've got an emergency repair that's needed at 3 in the morning or on Christmas Day, we've got providers that can cover that. We've then got providers who can carry out PPMs, so any planned or repeat maintenance that you're carrying out across your blocks or individual units as well if you need. We've got providers that can cover that. Much of this webinar will focus then on our in-hours reactive repairs, so any issues that come up day to day that aren't necessarily emergencies, but do need carrying out. We've got providers to cover that, and we'll talk a little bit about them in a short while. Finally, we also partner with PropCall to actually do call answering or a bit of outsourced property management as well. So you can have PropCall logging into the Fixo system, either raising issues on behalf of your residents or even potentially progressing issues through the Fixo system to Novex, their sister company, or to any other providers. But I guess over to Dean just to highlight a couple of the providers that we've got on board to launch it in the block world.
Yeah, great. So as Lewis kind of touched on, this is a bit of a spotlight on two contractors in the marketplace. The first thing to say is that the coverage extends way beyond that. These two providers will focus on are national contractors or national coverage. We felt in order to kind of launch marketplace for block customers, it's been well used for many years by our lettings customers that there are differences in services and brands within the industry, and we've teamed up with two great brands who I'm sure many people will be aware of. So coverage extends beyond these guys. You'll find some really well-established and good regional contractors, as well as sole traders doing a variety of different trades. So the first one to focus on is Ground Up Property Group. These guys have been an absolute pleasure to deal with. They are really well known within the industry. They're only founded in 2019, which I didn't realise until we put this together. They have a setup and a structure within their business that would indicate that they've been doing this way longer. So it's great to see them so professionalised so quickly. They've evolved from a grounds maintenance company into a full service provider. They do 24/7 coverage, 365 days a year. Some really good services that are covered from both planned and reactive maintenance, focused on block, build to rent as well. They do cleaning services, which is fantastic, fire safety, a lot of gardening and landscaping, mechanical engineering, which is a new addition to our marketplace because primarily we didn't see that demand in letting. So it's been great to onboard some new trade services onto the platform. Electrical services, plumbing, draining, full renos, and any kind of specialist services. So you'll find whenever you're allocating jobs, they have hourly rates which are laid out for all the services they offer. And they also have the ability to provide you with quotes because, as in the block world, not all jobs can be created equal, and there might be a bit of a variation and things like that. So their response time's great. They're able to return within 4 hours for emergencies. So yeah, really great team to be dealing with, and I'm really pleased to have them on board. Likewise, the next slide, please. Another brand which we've onboarded is Nirvana. So again, national coverage. These guys, family-run business. Again, a real pleasure to deal with. Have a real focus on quality, bit of innovation. They're not into really short-term kind of gains. They're all about setting things right, setting up customers for success, establishing their relationship with their customers to keep the business. Again, really kind of comprehensive services, fire, electrical, general maintenance, can provide kind of quotations on request as well. And they've been part of a really kind of innovative link up with Dandara, which was really exciting to see. They are essentially they've been appointed to just deliver everything for them, management of full, hard, and soft services. Big portfolio, 4,000 homes. And Nirvana have opted to take their partnership with Fixflo to the next level. They are an integrated contractor with Fixflo. So that is really exciting for us, and really importantly, what it means for customers is there is now zero lag, zero delay in terms of job updates. There is a direct link between Fixflo and Nirvana's service management system. So the moment a job is scheduled, it's updating Fixflo. The moment the tenant is contacted, or there's been progress made, or updates on parts availabilities or anything like that, all of that is reflected into Fixflo immediately. It just further reduces the delay, any delays with contact with the agent, the tenant. And what we're seeing is a significant reduction in the need for agents or block managers to have to ask for an update on a job, or looking for status updates. So they've decided to take it to the next level, and integration really benefits the contractor first, because it allows them to be far more efficient without having to kind of do any double entry tasks. And really the outcome for customers is just a far quicker turnaround time of jobs, which is really what it's all about.
That's so good to hear, Dean, isn't it?
Yeah.
Audit trail, live in system for PMs familiar with Fixflo, the user workflows that we have, and are really user friendly. Just to see that live, it's going to be awesome.
Definitely, and this is where I see from a contractor perspective, this is the kind of the future really of where we're going, is that costs have increased across the board for all businesses. I'm sure block managers are feeling it as well, and it's the same on the contractor side. And where there are opportunities to be more efficient, not having to do double entry, or doubling down on other admin tasks, it is a bit of a no-brainer. And this delivers kind of maximum efficiency to the contractor, whilst improving the service even more so for customers, which is obviously why Nirvana have opted to kind of commit to that integration, which is great. I suppose on the next slide,
just before we jump into that, I guess we talked a little bit about the great service that the providers have and are offering through the Fixflo Contractor Marketplace. Joe, as an ex-block manager, I'm just wondering if you've got any kind of insight into some of the challenges you had with suppliers in general, any experiences that this would have helped with.
Yeah, no, Lewis, it's an awesome question. I mean, I was always very much focused on having that relationship with my supply chain, and all that stakeholder comms is so important. But circumstances change sometimes. I had great, say, drainage contractors. They were on point always, and then things happen within business and life, and whatever that might be, it can affect how you're able to deliver your service to your clients who pay your management fees. Ultimately, your supply chain as a property manager is an extension of your business, and that's who leaseholders, who resident management company directors, right to manage company directors, who they see them on the ground. If they're out there investigating leaks into below ground car parks, whatever it might be, it's a real reflection on the overall kind of quality assurance as part of the supply chain. And I had some great contractors. I had some contractors that tried for the first time and maybe the second time and didn't ever try again, because it was clear that they weren't committed to the level of customer service or communication that I expected, or I knew my clients would expect. High-end demanding RMC directors, they're a savvy bunch, and increasingly so. A lot of them don't want to do the job anymore, and the people that are taking it on are, they are respected professionals in their own industries, and they kind of take that expectation of standards of work and communication to their role as serious RMC directors. And and I know only too well, and I know it's got harder when you're in the spotlight as that PM running those directors meetings and AGMs. You really need to be watertight on it, and to have the ability to see someone in a system that you're already using and think, I'll try them, and I know that I haven't got to ask around or references. And I think Dean will talk a bit more about vetting in a moment, but I think that's a key kind of call to action on this webinar, really, is what we've already done to provide some assurances.
Joe, I suppose back in your block days, what was your kind of mix, your contractor types that you were using? Were you using big nationals, or did you favour kind of more smaller businesses like sole traders, or kind of the in-between guy? What kind of typically did your mix look like?
That is a really good question. I would say that to begin with, I had mostly local and sole traders, but as I kind of grew into the role and had bigger buildings to look after, I needed bigger contractors with bigger public liability, professional indemnity insurances with their own reliable subcontractor supply chain. So I had the full breadth of it, from the one-man band who did gutter clearances or looking for a handy person. In fact, that was a real challenge point sometimes. A block would go, we want a handyman to come and do I don't know, bulb changes, refreshing skirting boards, or walls that have been scuffed by bikes or pushchairs. I'm sure the plot managers can relate to that. All the way, and this is probably the hardest one, was finding medium-sized main contractors who could really handle those external repairs and decorations projects to third-party surveyor specifications. So, and I know that we can cater for that in this ecosystem now. So I suppose adding to that, when you are dealing with those different contractors, it's knowing how to treat them as well. We always want to, don't forget to treat your contractors a bit like a customer too. I think that's often lost, but good information to them will result in better jobs. So if you're using the Fixflo system well by attaching specification documents, any preliminary information, or if it's a basic reactive, just 3 lines in that description is going to go a long way to making sure that contractor has a first time fix.
Cool. Yeah, good to hear. I suppose, yeah, like you say, touching on the compliance and vetting piece, I think, yeah, we take this incredibly seriously, because obviously trust is kind of course earned and not necessarily given, but there's things that we could be doing to maximise chances of success. And I suppose if I think I've got a slide on the next slide which kind of gives a bit of an overview of the compliance and vetting process that we follow. So we kind of break it down into 3 stages. So the first piece is the pre-vetting. If we've got a need, or we take a look at our pipeline, because we have a lot of contractors express interest in joining the marketplace. The fact is, there's not necessarily a place for every one of them, unfortunately, because of various reasons. Do they meet our compliance and vetting standards? Does our research indicate that that this is not the standard of service we want to expose Fixflo customers to? there's all kinds of things we need to check. So the first stage really for us is about pre-vetting. So we go off and do research. So that's online research, that's forums on Facebook or Twitter or X. That it's very easy when you want to find information to find it, and we'll go do those checks. They might already be part of registered trade bodies, say Contractor or Checker Trade, or various other kind of things. We'll go kind of check what they're doing there. So we get a picture really of their skill set, their reputation, where they're operating, and whether the signs indicate they're of the caliber of contractor our customers will be looking for. So if those kind of things are positive, that's when we begin the formal kind of compliance and vetting piece. So the first stage really is, we opt for a minimum of £1 million public liability insurance. The fact is, the majority of our contractors have far more than that. But obviously, a 10 million public liability insurance for a sole trader handyman is quite onerous. So we have to be able to cover everything. So yeah, minimum £1 million public liability insurance. We're looking for evidence of RAMs, risk assessments for job types that is applicable to. We want to see paperwork and an audit trail, not just generic RAMs. We prefer to see like kind of job specific RAMs, because sometimes generic RAMs can kind of be a bit of a get out of jail free card, and essentially a bit meaningless because it's covering every possible scenario under the sun. When you're there to kind of change a fuse or something like that, it's irrelevant. So we'll look at, for the regulated trades, we'll obviously go off and check the NIC, EIC, NAPIT register for electricians. Gas safe, again, we'll go off and do the checks with the gas safe register, and we're capturing all of the records and the details and ensuring that when those renewals are coming up, that the new insurance policies, new gas safe is provided, etc., etc. And if it's coming up to expiry and we don't receive it, essentially they're blocked from the marketplace until they're provided. So customers can't allocate jobs to contractors who don't have the necessary credentials at that moment in time. There's obviously a minimum of £5 million public liability insurance, and again, kind of linked to the RAM piece. We're reviewing the health and safety policies, particularly for the larger kind of regional and national businesses. So that's kind of the data capture element, and then we'll go further than that. We'll go off and do some checks on the business. So we'll do some research on the bankruptcy register. We're looking for no CCJs in the last 2 years. Company filing records, they need to be up to date on Companies House. If they're a brand new business and there's no paperwork filed, that's a red flag for us because they haven't kind of established themselves yet. We need to see a trading history. We'll go off and verify the director details and also review their other interests to make sure that there's no kind of conflict in what we're doing, or there's not a history of constantly dissolving businesses and setting up new ones. We'll avoid that at all costs. And we just generally review their trading history really for the last 3 years. So it's kind of one of these things in isolation isn't the answer to everything, but when we put all of this together, it obviously paints a picture of a credible and reliable contractor, which is kind of the priority, and they've got all the necessary paperwork.
Dean, that's awesome to hear. And I think our kind of listeners might be keen to know a bit more about how we actually track their performance, because some of the people on this call, I'm sure, are, they're well versed in using Fixflo, and they might have dabbled with SLAs, looking at statuses of jobs. But can you talk a little bit about actually how you're dashboarding it as network manager and some additional kind of QA work that you do?
Yeah, definitely. So when you go to allocate a job to a contractor, it provides an indication of their SLAs. So for example, for an urgent job, it could be attendance within 4 hours or 24 hours, depending on the type of job it is, or kind of non-urgent jobs, they might say 72 hours. We focus on key things, which is firstly, getting the job booked in and scheduled. So if it's in a unit, we want to see that booked with the tenant. Obviously, that doesn't necessarily always apply in terms of communal areas. So that booking should be confirmed with the PM or the block manager who's doing that. So there's an SLA around how long it takes them to do that and when they receive the jobs. There's an SLA for the physical attendance. There's an SLA that post attendance, how long it takes them to complete the job and send the paperwork. and there's an SLA from the time of invoice. And there is, again, the final SLA is, if a block manager goes on and sends a comment with a question, there's an SLA on the response time.
That's so good to hear. That's so good to hear. And so often it comes up when I'm talking to prospective customers and customers at events is that assurance, and contractors that know how to use the system. I think that we can't make any bones about it. Sometimes it can be a bit marmite. They all use different systems, but actually once they know how, they love it. I know contractors who say, "Oh, it's great. I can complete the job from my van. Don't have to go back and double key." So there's a benefit for them once they know. So these people have been trained to use Fixflo in the way it's intended, which once they get used to it, they then get to like it. The property manager gets to benefit enormously, and ultimately the customer benefits because the job's done hopefully quicker to a better standard at a fair price. So the whole proof of service is just massive.
Yeah, and you raise a good point. I think any contractor on the marketplace, they live and breathe the Fixflo system. So as you say, they're using it the way that it's intended to be used, and that the way it's intended to be used allows the customer to be at their most efficient, doesn't it? So
yeah,
and
our customers have you as your team as a second pair of eyes. It's just
100%. And it's all well and good having SLAs, and they can be as aspirational as you like. It's really the monitoring we have a continuous kind of feedback loop with contractors, which involves review meetings around SLAs, feedback. If there's areas to improve, we're focusing on those areas. If there's areas that we're doing exceptionally well, we want to make sure customers are aware of that, and that they're able to have that confidence. So yeah, it's a big part of what we do, certainly in the network team at Fixflo, around the SLAs. So yeah, definitely check out, anyone who's watching, I would say check out the SLAs on the contractor profiles, and definitely put these guys to the test.
That's great. And it might be worth just going to the first question. Do you want to read that out, Lewis?
No, go for it, Jay.
Cool. So we got Sarah. Thanks, Sarah. So a really good point. We kind of maybe focus a little bit more on the bigger contractors, but how would you vet those sole traders and small business contractors who don't have employees or health and safety policies? I think it is a good question. Hopefully some of stage 2, what Dean's spoken about, meets that. But do you want to add to that, Dean?
Yeah, sure. So kind of as I alluded to, when you're looking at sole traders, it's about balance and risk. So the example I gave is, a 10 million pound public liability or a 15 million pound public liability for a sole trader handyman would be ridiculous. So that's why we have a minimum of 1 million. So that would probably be suitable for that person. A one-man band in a van, they are not going to have the infrastructure or the setup around all these health and safety policies and things like that. So we wouldn't expect to see those. We have to take a pragmatic view for those guys. But that said, what we can do is we can go back and look at a track record of this contractor's performance and what they're doing. So we would perhaps go further and delve into specific references. We may well need to talk to other customers that they've worked with to kind of gain a picture. Again, it all forms part of that pre-vetting research piece. We would have kind of got a good understanding of how they're operating. And then the rest is really, there isn't going to be a booklet around their health and safety policies. Some actually, you'd be surprised, we do see RAMs from sole traders who are used to working, particularly with block and commercial customers. So that is often applicable depending on the work type that they're doing, but generally not for like a handyman or something like that. We wouldn't expect to see that. Hopefully I answered that question.
Cool. Great stuff.
Well, if we get to the next slide, please. And just a reminder, guys, get your questions in if you do have any. Dean, I guess just talk a little bit about our coverage, please.
Yeah, so the two contractors we spotlighted both provide national coverage. So wherever you are, they're going to be able to help you and support you with all the services that they offer. As I touched on before, in addition to that, we have a growing regional and sole trader contractor presence on the marketplace. So we fully subscribe to the fact that the marketplace needs to have your national contractors, but we also need to think local, and that involves regional contractors with good reputation and good track record. We want those guys on as well, and likewise with sole traders. So coverage at the moment for those guys is focused kind of London, southeast surrounding areas in the Midlands, and also Central Belt in Scotland. But that coverage is growing all the time. So if a local sole trader doesn't appear on your allocation screen today, they might do next week. That coverage is improving all the time. So yeah, definitely keep track of it. But obviously with the 2 spotlight contractors, we are well covered across the UK, which is good.
Perhaps worth adding that, when you're going to instruct a job, if you've created an issue against a building in your Fixflo system and you go to instruct contractors, the system is pulling the postcode of that block. So it's helping to automatically bring through suppliers that service the relevant geographical area. And it's smart as well, and it will try and tally up contractors who supply trade types, match the fault type. So really kind of honing in on it, again, to make it easier for you guys as property managers to get the right people out for the job.
Indeed, I think the other thing to add here as well is that we're balancing a supply demand dynamic here, aren't we? So as Joe mentioned, we're automatically matching trades and postcodes in your Fixflo system. But if there's areas where you do have needs that we're not necessarily fulfilling, just let us know. Dean's got crazy long list of providers wanting to get on board. What we're waiting to do before we onboard suppliers is making sure that the demand's there for them, that they're going to get jobs through the marketplace. So there are particular trades or particular regions that you're not quite seeing the coverage that you would like to. Just let us know and we can look at our pipeline.
I think that's such a good point, Lewis, especially with, we know that 2025 is a peak year for landlords' electricals inspections for, if your condition reports for the big buildings, if you can schedule those in, we are well resourced on those specifically. So systemizing those as service events for your PPMs, whether it's your electricals or water tanks, booster pumps, all those sorts of things. If you have a headache with those en masse and you know where you're struggling, please let us know.
Definitely. The EICR piece you touched on, Joe, obviously we've gone to great lengths to secure capacity for marketplace customers for those EICRs. I think we've talked about it in other sectors, and this is going to be a huge challenge for the industry throughout in terms of dealing with this peak. The fact is there just isn't enough electricians to fulfill the demand, but obviously customers using the marketplace can get ahead and ensure that their compliance is delivered on time. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out the coverage in your area.
And with that vetting as well, I know from going to all the TPI events and the LMP events, down in Brighton tomorrow, is that supply chain compliance is being talked about more and more, especially in terms of working on the 18-meter high-risk buildings. It'll probably come down to the 11-meter plus as well. Having that additional pre-validation is so important.
Agreed.
All right, we're a bit pressed for time, so I think I'll share my screen and just really quickly show you how it works. So hopefully I'm sharing Fixflo. Just a couple of things to touch on really. Contractor Marketplace should be enabled in your system. So you should have this little tab at the top here. If that's not there, it means we've not turned it on for you yet. So please just reach out to us and we can get that turned on for you. There's one thing that you need to do before you can instruct any jobs to providers, and that's just sign the terms and conditions for the Contractor Marketplace. So all you'll need to do, you may have signed these already, but if you haven't, just go to Setup, Settings, go to T's and C's, and there's one right here for the Contractor Marketplace. So you'll just need to click there, accept, and at that point, you're able to instruct jobs to marketplace providers. If I grab an issue, so here's an example. I've reported a common parts heating not working in one of the blocks that I manage on my Fixflo system. As Joe mentioned, it's really simple. Providers will appear in your system, whether they can cover that postcode. So when we're onboarding providers, we get a list of all of the postcodes that they can cover. In Nirvana and GroundUp's case, that's everywhere. So, they'll be appearing. Also, we get an understanding of what faults that they can cover. So you've got the big long fault tree, as we call it in Fixflo, with, what was it, Dean? 900 different faults, I think, that can be reported by a tenant or a resident, depending on whether you're a lettings or block client. We match every single one of those faults to providers to understand what skill sets they can cover. So essentially, if an issue's in a location they can cover, and if it's a fault type they can cover, they will appear in your system automatically. And I'll show you what that looks like here. You go to Instruct Work, and straight away you can see here's Nirvana, here's GroundUp. We've even got Masterfix, another provider who can cover this job. And all the information that you need to instruct that job to them should be here. So, an understanding of their coverage area, for example. Public liability, you can view their public liability. SLAs, what their rates are, for example. The way it works typically with marketplaces, yes, you can request quotes, but we get a rate card from every single provider that we get on board as well. So you know how much a call out's going to cost. At the point of instruction, you could choose which provider you'd like, and you instruct the job, and it will land in their contractor marketplace system for them then to carry out the job. And that's more or less it. Pretty simple.
Awesome. Nice demo.
Thank you. Right, back to you, Jonty, to share, I think. So yeah, we're a bit pressed for time. But yeah, I think we've got a couple of questions coming in. Let me have a look. So we've got one here saying, I've had problems in the past with my contractors not uploading documents to Fixflo. Is there a way to require contractors to do that? So that's probably one for you, Dean.
We insist on it for any contractor using who's in the contractor marketplace. So if you're using a marketplace contractor, it's a given that you will receive paperwork uploaded. So yeah, that's not an issue for customers using marketplace contractors.
Great. Thank you very much. Right, the next one is, can you contact contractors outside the Fixflo system? I only work with contractors I've met in person first.
Yeah, so I think what we, certainly for larger clients, of which obviously block customers a lot mainly fall into that as well, what we try and do at the early stages is broker a relationship between yourself and the contractor. We too believe that relationships are valuable and are important. So yeah, we day-to-day stuff, job thing, maximum efficiency is gained when both customer and contractor report into Fixflo and using the system. For kind of check-ins or escalations, touch wood. Absolutely, we're happy to kind of support that and make intros to contractors. Ultimately, these contractors are well established, well known. So more than welcome to pick up the phone, or we broker a Zoom call or something like that. Whatever works for customers, really.
Great, thank you. Right, there's one more question. Yeah, guys, do get your questions in if you have any more. So saying, I already use Nirvana. What's the difference between using them through Contractor Marketplace?
So the only difference is a positive one. So any kind of existing relationship, commercial rates or anything like that, terms and conditions you have with Nirvana remain unchanged. So it's completely the same. The benefit is what I was touching on about the contractor integration. So Nirvana have integrated with Fixflo. So by allocating to that the correct profile in order to take advantage of that integration, as I said, it's a direct link between Fixflo and the contractor service management system. 0 delays or double entry requirements from the contractor. You're allowing the contractor to operate as efficiently as possible, which just translates to faster job completion time, much speedier communication with agent, tenants, all involved, job closure, invoicing, and that's what we're all about, isn't it? Getting jobs completed as quickly as possible.
Indeed, which I think wraps us up quite nicely. Yeah, just with a little stat here. So this is obviously taken from the lettings base where we've launched Contractor Marketplace already. But what we saw there was clients who instruct jobs to non-marketplace contractors typically take about 7.5 days to complete a job. When they're using marketplace providers, that halves to 3.5 or more than halves. So just shows kind of the level of service of providers that are giving through the marketplace, as well as the SLAs they're adhering to. So I think all that's left to be said is start instructing some jobs. So yeah, just log into Fixflo, sign the terms and conditions if you haven't already. And yeah, all of our vetted and certified contractors will appear in the system automatically. Just a final piece of housekeeping. As you leave the webinar, you'll be asked to complete a little survey. So please just do complete that survey just so we understand feedback, what you want webinars on, etc., etc. And yeah, feel free to reach out to any of us directly if you have any questions on the marketplace. But other than that, thanks so much, Jay. Thanks so much, Dean. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thanks, all.